Now, earlier today, Laurel's police chief told us that authorities have been making extra efforts to ease concerns in the community.
Well, the Yellowstone County Sheriff says a suspect is now in custody tied to last week's murder of a Laurel woman.
Imagine working at a neighborly casino in the small town of Laurel, Montana, having no idea that your job would eventually bring you face to face with your murderer. Your last moments alive are comprised of pain and fear before hands wrap around your throat, taking your life. For 57-year-old Lori Bray, this was a harsh reality. This is the case of Lori Bray. Welcome back to True Murder Cases. We offer our condolences to Lori's family and friends, to all those people out there who will cherish the memory of Lori for the rest of their lives. Who was Lori Bray? Lori was a quiet presence in the bustling town of Laurel. She worked as a runner in a local casino, living a simple life that revolved around her two rescue dogs, Mac and Nikki. Her world was made complete by her son Justin, her 5 grandchildren, numerous siblings, and 8 nieces and nephews. Lori's warm-heartedness extended to her love for animals. She was not just a pet owner, but a dedicated supporter of rescue centers and charities. Her compassionate nature inspired her to foster dogs, providing them with temporary shelter until they found their forever homes. Those who knew Lori described her as one of the kindest souls they had ever met. Her former roommate and boss, Katie, painted a picture of a woman who exuded warmth, greeted everyone with a welcoming smile, and extended a helping hand without hesitation. Lori's trusting nature, however, was not one without its drawbacks. Her son Justin said this could sometimes be a double-edged sword, and she could be too trusting of people, never seeing the bad in anyone, even when they gave her a reason to question them. The calendar flipped to September 30th, 2019, like any other day. Lori completed her late-night shift at the Cedar Ridge Casino shortly before midnight. Knowing she had an early shift on October 1st at 8:30 a.m., Lori clocked out, locked up, and headed for home. The morning of October 1st arrived, but Lori did not. Her absence from work raised alarms among her coworkers. There was no call from Lori explaining her absence, which was highly unusual. Around the same time, Katie, her boss, was en route to work down a desolate road flanked by fields stretching for miles. Something unusual caught her eye. A car parked at an odd angle at an intersection. It appeared unoccupied, which struck her as perplexing. Katie decided to make a call to Justin, Lori's son, who was now grappling with similar concerns. Justin, upon receiving Katie's call, felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Something indeed felt amiss that morning. His mother's usual morning call had not arrived, and this was out of character. Worry surged through him as he rushed to Lori's home, desperately calling her phone as he drove. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Upon arriving at Lori's house, Justin made a heart-wrenching discovery. Her car was missing. Even more troubling, her 2 cherished dogs, Mac and Nikki, were unattended and unfed, a situation his mother would never permit. A thorough search of her home revealed no answers. The bed was neatly made, there were no signs of breakfast preparations, and an eerie silence hung over the place. The sense of foreboding deepened. Justin and Katie decided to go back to the car together. They headed to the location where Lori's car was parked in a peculiar manner. There, they made a grim discovery. It was indeed Lori's 2003 Chrysler sedan. The sunroof was open, the car showed signs of damage, and her purse, car keys, and iPhone lay inside, lighting up as it was receiving calls. Yet, the disarray inside the car was chilling. Bloodstains covered more than half of the seats, and a muddy shoe impression adorned the passenger side door. This was not just a case of a missing person, it was a scene of violence. They immediately dialed 911.
911, what's your emergency?
And the authorities responded swiftly. The initial inspection of Lori's car sent shivers down the spine of those present. Bloodstains, scattered clothing, including damaged underwear, and signs of a struggle painted a distressing picture. Lori Bray had vanished, leaving behind only questions and unsettling evidence of a disturbing incident. Lori Bray was now a missing person. The discovery of Lori's abandoned car in a remote location triggered a wave of concern and action within the Laurel community. Friends, volunteers, and law enforcement officials joined forces to search for any trace of Lori. Social media became a platform for sharing information and rallying support. Posts appeared, reflecting the collective worry and determination of the community. One person typing, "She would never leave her dogs. They are her world. Someone has to know something. No lead is too small. And I ask that everyone please pray that she is found safe." It was instantly a case that captured the media as well as the public, as it was just so unusual for something like this to happen in this area. The area where her car was discovered was a wide, grassy field that didn't provide much comfort. Looking for any hints or clues in this kind of landscape was an extremely challenging task. Nevertheless, many friends, volunteers, and determined police officers searched the open land to the north of Laurel desperately, hoping to discover some information that would lead them to 57-year-old Lori Bray. The search for Lori had barely begun when a crucial lead emerged. Lori's workplace, the Cedar Ridge Casino, possessed surveillance footage that could shed light on her last known interactions. Katie, Lori's boss and former roommate, willingly provided this crucial footage to the authorities. The casino's surveillance footage became a focal point of the investigation. It revealed a series of events on the night of Lori's disappearance. As closing time approached, Lori was diligently carrying out her routine duties, restocking and cleaning. Two women engaged in a brief conversation with her at the bar. These women were familiar faces at the casino, regular patrons. Another individual, identified as Diego Hernandez, entered the scene. He was known to be associated with one of the women. Diego ordered a drink, and Lori, adhering to protocol, asked to see his identification before serving him. Lori then pointed at the clock, indicating that the casino was closing soon and Diego needed to leave. There was a brief conversation before Lori carried on with the close-down duties. At 11:20 p.m., Lori finished her work shift. She gathered her things, locked the casino's door, and walked towards her car. The casino's security cameras recorded this happening. As she got closer to her car, a significant and concerning event took place. Diego Hernandez, who was 22 years old at the time, got into Lori's car as the only person left at the casino. The video footage didn't show anyone else nearby. The detectives, carefully examining the video footage and the circumstances of Lori's disappearance, confronted a crucial question. Why did Diego go with Lori, and what happened during that crucial car ride? The surveillance footage suggested that Lori had apparently offered Diego a ride home as a kind gesture, which showed her trusting personality. However, what exactly unfolded when they approached Diego's house remained a mystery. The authorities quickly initiated a search to find Diego Hernandez, identifying him as the last person known to be with Lori. On October 2nd, only 2 days after Lori went missing, they found him at his home. Diego confirmed who he was and acknowledged that he had been recorded by the casino's security cameras. He admitted that Lori had generously offered to drive him home after they met by chance at the casino. He said he only went to the casino on a whim because he could get free drinks there. He arrived at about 9 p.m. and stayed for a couple of hours using a few machines and chatting to people. Diego said. Lori drove him to his house. He said thank you and goodbye, and then he went to meet up with a friend, ready to carry on the party. He said he hadn't seen Lori since he watched her drive away, and it was simply a passing encounter and a kind gesture from a stranger. But there was something that was catching the police's attention, something they couldn't overlook. The fresh scratches on his face, hands, and torso. Police officers noticed these injuries and asked about how he got them, expressing worry that they seemed consistent with a physical fight. Diego calmly provided an explanation, stating that the scratches came from a recent altercation with his friend named Nick, who had a ring that accidentally cut his face. He remained composed and honest, showing no signs of being deceptive. With this, the police left. They located Nick, and he confessed that he and Diego had indeed gotten into a scuffle inside his car. Nick explained that Diego had suddenly become extremely agitated and panicked. According to Nick, at one point, he had put Diego in a headlock and then pushed him out of the vehicle, but he emphasized that there was no scratching involved, and he was surprised to see the state of Diego's face afterward. He had no reason to lie and had already admitted to the physical confrontation and forcing Diego out of the car. However, the scratches on Diego's face did not seem connected to this particular incident. Despite what Nick had disclosed, which did align with parts of Diego's story, the fact remained that the police had no other leads beside him. Diego was still the last known person to have been with Lori, and, as he had admitted, he was in her car at some point. The surveillance footage from Cedars Casino couldn't verify whether the scratches were present at the time. However, additional footage from another bar just a few hours before the incident clearly showed that Diego had no marks on his face whatsoever. On the early morning of October 2nd, a dedicated search party resumed their efforts, determined to find any trace of Lori. Throughout the day, they scoured the area with unwavering persistence, combing through the wilderness and hoping for a breakthrough. However, as dusk began to settle, the phone call that investigators had been dreading came in at 7:30 p.m. The caller, a man out riding his ATV in a remote wooded area, had stumbled upon a chilling and gruesome discovery. A sense of dread washed over him as he gazed upon the lifeless body of a woman lying naked and vulnerable on the unforgiving ground. Even from a distance, it was evident that she had suffered a savage and fatal beating. Lori's lifeless form had been found less than 2 miles from where her abandoned car had been discovered. She lay at the bottom of a ditch, exposed and vulnerable in a fetal position. The scene was haunting. Her body bore the unmistakable marks of a brutal attack. She was covered in abrasions and bruising, with blood evident in her nose and hair, and pronounced swelling around both eyes. Her lip was swollen, and several of her ribs had been broken. A subsequent examination confirmed that her cause of death was strangulation. Yet the medical examiner also noted that she had endured blunt force trauma to her face. The forensic investigation intensified as a sexual assault kit was employed, revealing the presence of blood but no semen. Traces on Lori's body indicated that she had either been dragged down the hill or pushed, dispelling the notion that she had been killed at the location where she was discovered. It became painfully clear that she had likely met her tragic end inside her own vehicle and had been transported to this desolate spot. Near her lifeless form, a small necklace adorned with a cross lay, accompanied by a shoe imprint that bore a striking resemblance to the one found inside Lori's car. The level of violence and brutality was shocking, leading investigators to describe the perpetrator as nothing less than a monster. The once close-knit community was now fractured and fearful, worrying that this might not be an isolated incident and that someone else could also be in danger. One resident described Lori's death as deeply impactful and harmful to the entire community. Despite their concerns, everyone set aside their worries and came together. For Lori's family and friends, they united to raise funds to take care of her dogs, support Justin, and contribute towards the funeral expenses. The investigation began to yield significant findings as detectives tracked Lori's phone movements on the night of her disappearance. The phone had pinged at several locations between midnight and 3 a.m., including the casino where her car and body were discovered, and another near Diego's residence. Intriguingly, Diego's house and its vicinity had pinged just before the location where Lori's lifeless body was found, suggesting that her fate had already been sealed by that point. This evidence was pivotal. Diego's actions on that fateful night raised further suspicion. During his time at another bar earlier in the evening, he had made persistent advances on random women, including the bartender. His harassing behavior had left the bartender feeling uncomfortable and refusing his advances multiple times. On October 4th, detectives executed a search warrant at Diego's residence, uncovering crucial evidence. Among their findings were clothes that appeared to have been bleached and freshly laundered, contrasting starkly with the rest of the room's dirty laundry. Additionally, a pair of soaking wet Nike shoes with a tread matching the print found inside Lori's car and near her lifeless form was discovered. The investigation delved deeper into Diego's digital footprint. It was revealed that shortly after Lori's tragic death, he had conducted online searches about the duration of investigations and the workings of FBI investigations. Diego willingly provided a DNA sample at the station, but his narrative changed once again. He claimed that he and Lori had conversed and engaged in consensual sexual activity near his home, but adamantly asserted that he had not seen her afterward. Crucial evidence materialized when Diego's DNA was found to match that discovered on Lori's lifeless body and beneath her fingernails. This revelation led to Diego's arrest in connection with Lori's tragic death, sending shockwaves through the community once more. He was charged with deliberate homicide, and the community anxiously awaited the outcome of the impending trial. The trial of Diego Hernandez commenced in March 2021, with Diego vehemently maintaining his innocence. He continued to assert that he and Lori had been involved in a secret relationship for over a year, a claim that deeply angered Lori's family and friends. In opening statements, Diego's defense attorney suggested that Lori's abandoned car may have been tampered with or contaminated before law enforcement conducted their search, casting doubt on the integrity of the evidence. The defense also pointed out the presence of methadone in Lori's system, suggesting that she had hidden secrets, including a relationship with Diego. However, the prosecution presented a formidable case, enlisting the testimony of DNA and forensic experts. The jury was led through a harrowing journey, examining the crime scene and the brutal murder of 57-year-old Lori Bray. Evidence, including the traces found under Lori's fingernails, unequivocally linked Diego Hernandez to her death. The defense sought to challenge the DNA evidence by questioning the crime lab's peer review process. Additionally, cell phone geolocation data played a crucial role in the trial. It provided insights into Lori's phone's movements on the night of October 1st, reinforcing the timeline of events. However, the data from Diego's phone yielded limited insights, leading investigators to suspect that his cell service had been terminated prior to his interaction with Lori. Phone records from the year before indicated no contact between Lori and Diego through messaging or phone calls. Despite Diego's defense persisting with their narrative, the prosecution's case appeared robust. After several days of intense scrutiny, both sides rested their cases. The jury began their deliberations, and within a mere 2 hours, they reached a unanimous verdict: guilty of deliberate homicide. Diego Hernandez was found guilty before being sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 35 years to serve before being eligible for parole. The community breathed a collective sigh of relief as justice was served. In an unexpected twist, the proceeding took an astonishing turn during the sentencing hearing. Diego, who had adamantly denied any involvement in the violent act for well over a year, chose to testify. It was a moment of raw emotion and revelation as he uttered words that stunned the courtroom. "I did it. I killed Lori." The judge presiding over the case expressed astonishment, noting that in 4 decades of courtroom experience, such an admission was unprecedented. On that fateful day, Diego Hernandez was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 35 years before parole consideration. The community was left grappling with a profound sense of loss, but also a glimmer of closure. Lori Bray's case had deeply affected many, leaving an indelible mark on those who knew her well and even those who had never crossed paths with her. The sense of unity that emerged in the wake of her tragedy demonstrated the resilience of a community that had been forever changed. As the sun set on the courtroom proceedings and the community continued to heal, one thing remained certain: Lori Bray would be remembered as a kind, loving woman who had touched the lives of many. Her legacy would endure in the hearts of those who had been fortunate enough to know her. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to True Murder Cases because that makes this video possible, and click on the left to see another one you might enjoy.